In this video, I'm going to talk about clone stamping. To remind you, on the portrait project, you're required to do clone stamping, spot healing brush, or healing brush. You can also do all of them. Sometimes one is better than the other, so it just depends. So I'm going to look through my files and see which of my files would be the best candidate for clone stamp, because that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. And I'm going to do clone stamp on this particular one because she has some hair flyaways. That's something that I like to fix with the clone stamp tool rather than healing brush. I get a little bit more control. In this photo, if I wanted to get rid of some of the oranges that are being squirted, I could use a clone stamp on that. So it just depends. Like, honestly, you just need to try one tool, and if that doesn't end up looking good, you can try the other tools. Okay, so another note, do this before you do frequency separation. So if you did frequency separation already, then do this on a different file because it's going to get really confusing if you don't do this before frequency separation. So first thing, we have one background copy right now. We want to make another background copy because clone stamping is permanent and we don't want to mess up our image in case we make a mistake. So we're going to go to layer at the top of the screen and we're going to choose duplicate layer. The keyboard shortcut for that is Command J. So if you do it layer, duplicate layer, you can name it here. And I do want you to name your layers for this project. So this is going to be called clone stamp if you do clone stamping. You can click OK. If you just do a Command J instead, so let me undo that, Command J, it doesn't have the box for you to name your layer. So if that happens, just double click where it says layer 1 over here, and then you can rename it, clone stamp. Be aware if you don't rename your layers, I will ask you to fix that before I grade it. Okay, so now we're going to choose the clone stamp tool, and the clone stamp tool is S, like stamp. It's over here in the tool window. And remember, if any of these windows get closed, you can always reopen them, tools, options, or layers. Okay, so clone stamp, there are two stamping tools. We want clone stamp, not pattern stamp, so make sure you're on that. At the top, we're going to choose our brush size and hardness, and also make sure it's a round brush, not one of these other shapes. I'm going to choose a much smaller brush for over here. And your hardness just depends. Like, this side of her hair is pretty blurry, so I'll go pretty low on my hardness. But if I'm doing like up here where it's more focused, I probably want it to be a little bit harder, at least when I get close to her hair. I can do hair flyaways with this. I could do pimples or wrinkles. It just depends. And then I'll also talk about under eye circles and patchiness of skin because you could also fix that with this. Okay, the mode, normal, opacity 100, flow 100. Sample, I just want to sample my current layer. I don't want to sample this layer because that's my backup copy. Okay, then you're going to select the area that you want to put on top of the area you're covering up. Or if you're duplicating something, then you want to select the thing you're duplicating. Hold down your Option key, and first I'm going to go after this little hair right here. So I'm going to select right next to it. I'm going to let go of my Option key, and then I'm going to cover it up. Okay, this one I'm going to select here. I'm going to cover it up. This one, it's a little bit more focused, so I'm going to increase my hardness a little bit. I'm going to select up here. I'm going to cover it up. So notice I just keep reselecting, and that's going to be the key to it not looking patchy or bad. Bring hardness back down. Go after this one. We also want to avoid making it look like somebody has a helmet head if we are doing hair flyaways. Because that's going to look very artificial. So I'll just do some, I won't do a ton, just to get an idea. Okay, so next thing, if it was under eye circles or skin patchiness, still can use clone stamp, but I would suggest decreasing either opacity or flow. It doesn't really matter which, it just depends on what looks better. I'm going to go opacity, and for under eye circles, I'm going to do around 30%. Okay, she doesn't have pronounced under eye circles, but just like this side's a little bit more than this side. So what I'm going to do is hold down Option, and I'm going to select the part of her skin that isn't dark down here in kind of a line, like a curved line that matches the shape of her under eye. Then I'm gonna go over the eye where the darkness is. Because I have the opacity lower, if it's not enough the first time, I can go over it again. Okay. What I don't want to do is do under eye circles at 100%. I'll show you what that looks like. Because then it looks really fake. See that? Okay, so that's why some things, either flow or opacity, you want to go lower. Okay, and I can kind of layer it up. Same thing with like skin patchiness. You can fix this also with frequency separation, but let's just say I want to go after this. I'm going to put it at a low opacity, maybe like a little stronger, maybe 40%. I'm going to select this part of the skin, and then I'm just going to soften it over there, like that. Okay, so that's the clone stamp, and then also to remind you, you can use it to duplicate things as well, like in this image. Go back to 100%. If I wanted more of these pieces of the orange, I could copy them and put them over different parts of the photo. Okay. All right, so that is clone stamp, and FYI, I do want you to keep this in layers. Okay, so do not collapse your image for your clone stamp if you do that one, because I need to see your work. You'll save as a Photoshop, so File, Save As. I would strongly suggest you make a new portrait folder. Portrait. Call it Photoshop Edited, so you know which ones are your Photoshop ones. Okay, and then make sure the format says Photoshop and your layers are checked. And that's it.